Should Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac get an overhaul or simply go away? For more on their future, we turn now to our guests in Washington. We've got John Taylor. He's president and CEO of the National Community Reinvestment Coalition. He attended today's Treasury conference that we've been talking about. Once a critic of Fannie and Freddie, he now believes they need to return to public-private status. We'll also be speaking to David John. He's a senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation. He served as an economic advisor to both Republican and Democratic congressmen. He says Fannie and Freddie have posed a risk to the financial system and the taxpayer for long enough. Gentlemen, welcome. Obviously, this is a hot topic down in Washington today and just generally recently. John, I want to start with you. Obviously, you're coming from more of the community angle. Why do you think Fannie and Freddie need to be preserved? And more importantly, in what form should they be preserved?
Well, they need to be preserved because, frankly, most people in America can, one way or another, trace the fact that they are in homes because of these government-sponsored enterprises, as well as VA and FHA. They did a great job, really, for most of their history. The truth was, and people said this, you know, they weren't adequately capitalized. They needed to have more reserves. There needed to be more oversight, and that was correct. Because what they ended up doing is, frankly, following the free market into this subprime abyss where there was a lot of predatory, unsustainable loans made, and Fannie and Freddie followed that market after they lost a tremendous amount of market share. And the rest is history. When the market fell, they fell with it. But, you know, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. They've been responsible for a lot of Americans being able to get homes through their acting as a securitizer.
David, do you think you can sort of roll back the clock here, and are they reformable?
No, I don't believe they are reformable. And the fact is that the huge losses that they sustained, both as a result of their own investment policy and because of government affordable housing policies, is a hole and a problem that we can't ignore. Yes, they have helped people to get houses in the past, but the fact is, going forward, we can do much better by gradually shifting this over to the role of the private sector. It has to be done very carefully.
Well, David, I would say, I talked to an economist earlier today, and he said, you know what, the private sector isn't stepping up. There's no sign really of that happening with any volume. So how do you make that happen, David?
Well, first off, the private sector is not stepping up because when it comes down to it, government enterprises control between 90 and 98% of the current market. And those government enterprises are not charging risk-based premiums at the moment, so it's very difficult for any private sector firm to step in. Now, when you have 90% of the market plus, well, though I don't think that's actually the case. I think that what you have to do is gradually dial back the presence of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So you can start by reducing the level of the height of the allowable mortgages and move that back down. And this has got to be done carefully, because if you have government controlling 90% of the market, you can't just turn around and step out. You can't say, okay, you're on your own, boys. This has got to be thought out very carefully.
Can I get in here?
Yeah, John, please, go ahead.
Yeah, David, look, first off, if it wasn't for Fannie and Freddie, we wouldn't have any mortgage market in this country right now. I mean, thank God they still exist. Now, I happen to agree with you. I'd like to see the loan limits actually lowered and have more of the free market step in on that. But the truth of the matter is it had nothing to do with the affordable housing goals. Anybody who's been engaged with the GSEs and engaged in what motivated them to go into the subprime market know that it has nothing at all to do with the affordable housing goals. The affordable housing goals, all through the 80s and 90s, frankly, they were all prime loans. They were good loans, sustainable loans. It wasn't until Fannie and Freddie followed that free market that, by the way, which you're not calling for an end of the free market, and they've cost American homeowners about $7 trillion worth of lost equity as a result of all this financial debacle, these malfeasant lending practices that the free market is engaged in as more so than anybody. And you're not calling for the end of investment banks or Wall Street or anything like that. I think what we need to do is fix things when they break.